Hi everyone, welcome back to Talks in Class. I'm Jenna and I'm so glad that you're joining me today. Thank you for being here. It's the last week of September already, and October is going to be a busy month. There's a lot going on. We are traveling twice and we just have activities, lots of activities every single weekend. There's stuff going on, so it's gonna go by in a blur. But because we are traveling, there'll be 2 separate weeks in October that I will be not here. I am attempting to pre-record a couple of podcast episodes so that I can hopefully not skip any weeks while I'm traveling, but TBD on that. I may have to skip a week at the beginning of November, but I'll let you know once it gets closer what the schedule will be and if we will be missing any weeks. Around here, we are just getting into spooky season. I'm pretty sure my apartment is haunted. Because my Nespresso machine, my apartment's either haunted or my Nespresso machine is possessed, one of the two. The other night, Hubs and I were both in the other room, and Daisy, the dog, were all in the other room, and all of a sudden, we heard this loud banging sound like something fell, and we were like, was there an earthquake or something? Like, what was that? It turns out that my Nespresso coffee machine turned itself on completely on its own and somehow got into cleaning mode, which means that it empties the entire water tank, which was full. Mind you, we were both in the other room for a while at this point. We were nowhere near this machine. It did this completely on its own, I promise you, and nothing else weird was happening in the apartment. Thankfully, there was an empty coffee mug under the machine, ready for the morning on the little stand where you put the mug. As it drained the water tank, it overflowed the coffee mug, causing it to fall over, and that was the bang that we heard. But it literally flooded the entire kitchen counter. Like, there was coffee cleaner water all over the counter, all over the floor, all over the cabinet doors. It was a total mess. So I don't know, we may just have like a sassy ghost in the apartment that is playing tricks on me and trying to mess with my caffeine consumption. That, or I just need a new Nespresso machine, which could very well be the case. But anyway, as always, I will start with my what good happened for the week. I just have to say, the power of social media really is so crazy. And granted, there are a lot of just bad interactions that happen on social media. There's a lot of awful, truly kind of disgusting behavior that happens online, and we all know this. But I will say that I have connected with so many amazing people through social media, and it's kind of amazing to me just how kind strangers can be. And I know that gets eclipsed a lot of the time by the negativity on social media, but I'm really blown away when people message me just really kind things. And one of the things that happens kind of frequently is that people will message me asking if they can send me their old clothes or their old accessories that they find when they're cleaning out so that I can use them for my videos. And I just think that's so fun and just so kind. I love finding stuff in the wild, but there's something special about getting something from somebody who engages with and watches my content and then being able to use it in a video and knowing that they're gonna see it and be like, that was mine in high school or whatever. So this past week, someone messaged me and said that she found a whole box full of clothes from the late 2000s. And she assumed we were around the same size, so she asked if she could send me the box, and she did. She sent me this entire box full of clothes to go through, and it's so crazy to me how many of us manage to basically live the exact same life, regardless of, location or whatever. Because when I tell you, I started going through this box, and there were a handful of items that were exactly the same as things that I owned, which makes it even more fun because then I can recreate outfits that I remember wearing. I also have been finding really good deals on Poshmark. I do thrift items because obviously I don't have everything. I have a lot of things, but not everything. So I do find a lot of good stuff on Poshmark, but lately I've been finding like insanely good deals on the exact items that I had, which is always my goal. I always try to find the exact item when possible. So I might have to do a little clean out of the vault, which is what I call my collection of throwback clothes, because having this ever-growing collection of, 15, 20-year-old clothing when you live in a small apartment is challenging, but I make it work. So for this week, I wanted to continue the conversation that we've been having since the podcast came back from hiatus this past month, We've been on kind of a back to school, early school year kick. We did back to school and then I did school pictures. So it felt necessary to also cover probably the most exciting week of the fall season when I was in school, which is homecoming week. When I was in high school in the early 2000s, homecoming week was one of the most exciting weeks of the school year. If I had to rank the best weeks of the school year, I think it would have to be the last week of school as the best. Obviously, that's number one. Nothing can beat the last week of school. Number two would be homecoming week. And then the third best would be the first week of school because that also had some excitement to it before you got into the swing of the school year. And those are the best 3 weeks of the school year in that order. Homecoming week timing was just so great because it was towards the end of September. So it hit right as that excitement of the new school year, the beginning of the school year was kind of wearing off. You know, we'd start school in early September and then by the end of the month, we were all kind of settling into a routine and then boom, homecoming week would come. And I'd be really interested to hear how other schools handled homecoming because in my school, looking back, we really went all out. Homecoming was such a huge deal. And I do think in general, I just had a rather unique high school experience because I lived in such a small town. There's just something about small towns. They seem kind of frozen in time in a way. Like certain things in small towns seem to function the way that things in other places probably functioned years ago. And, you know, I actually really love that aspect of my hometown now when I visit. Like things just are simpler and they seem a little easier because of it. But I really see this when I reflect on my high school experience. I talked about some of this stuff in an episode I did a while back about my high school experience in a more general sense. It's episode 21 that I did back in April, if you're interested. But when I think back on high school homecoming week, when I was in high school at least, all I remember is just shenanigans, like the entire week. I'm not sure we did much in terms of actual learning or going to class during homecoming week because all I remember is just fun activities the entire week. And we really crammed so much into that week in terms of activities. Again, not learning, not doing school related things, but just general shenanigans and fun. Each year for homecoming, the school would pick this overall theme, and then each class, you know, freshmen through seniors, would have sort of a sub theme within that overall theme. So our freshman year, my freshman year, it was board games, and our class had Mousetrap. Sophomore year was Disney movies. We had Peter Pan, and we really botched that one, but we had Peter Pan. Junior year was cities, and I think we had Vegas. And senior year, I actually have no idea. I have no idea. I've thought about this so much, and I cannot for the life of me remember what the theme was senior year. You'd really think that I'd remember the most details about senior year because, you know, we were seniors, but I have no clue. And that's another thing. In my school, homecoming was obviously for everybody. Everybody participated, but it was really it was about the seniors. It was kind of a senior focused week. Seniors had a lot of special things that were only for them during homecoming week. The homecoming court was obviously seniors only. The king and queen were seniors. The senior class would get this huge group photo taken outside of the school on Friday of homecoming week every year that would go in the yearbook. A bunch of the seniors rode in the homecoming parade. Toga day, which was one of the theme days, was only for the seniors. The whole school did not wear togas. Only the seniors wore the togas. So it was really kind of the seniors event, the seniors week, but everybody participated in all of the other ways. The themes were a really big deal because each class would decorate their designated hallways according to their themes. And I think we may have also had floats too that we decorated for the parade, but I could be totally making that up. I don't have any concrete memories of the floats, so I might be thinking about Greek week floats in college, actually. I don't know. I'm practically a senior citizen, you guys. My memory is not that great. High school was a long time ago. This is 20 years ago, so my memory is a little foggy. You have to forgive me. But we definitely did the hallways. And when I say that we decorated our hallways, we transformed these hallways. We would stay after school each day and we would use construction paper and paint and glitter and I guess whatever we could find in the art room, I assume, to completely cover every inch of the hallway with decorations according to our theme. We would hang stuff from the ceilings, we would cover lights, we would cover the lockers. I mean, it was wild. It was very elaborate. the year that the theme was board games, one of the classes had Jumanji. I don't remember which class it was, but I remember that hallway was amazing. They covered the lights so it was really dark, and they twisted up construction paper so it looked like vines, and they hung it from the ceiling. So when you walked into that hallway, it felt like you were walking into a jungle. It was very impressive. I still remember it. It's been a very long time. And I think the point of this was that it was a whole competition between the classes, and everybody would vote at some point during the week on who had the best hallway. I'm pretty sure this took place at a pep rally towards the end of the week, but there were so many events during homecoming week that it kind of all blends together in my mind. We did the decorating throughout the week, and of course the hallways looked better and better every day until they were finally done toward the end of the week. And then we did the whole spirit week on top of all of this. So we had a different theme day each day of the week that we would dress up for. And as you guys probably already guessed, I lived for dressing up for the theme day. My friends and I would go all out for our outfits every single day. We did some crazy outfits, and thankfully, or maybe not thankfully, I don't know. I have photographic evidence of most of these outfits. And then later in the week, we would have a pep rally. And I think at this pep rally, they gave awards for things like best costumes for various Spirit Week theme days. Maybe that's also when they announced the winners for the hallway decorations. I don't really remember. I'm not sure what else went down at this pep rally, but I do remember one year, my friend ended up with a pie in her face. I have a picture of this also. So there were definite shenanigans. Again, we were not in class. All of these things were taking place during school hours. There was no learning taking place during homecoming week. I am almost certain of this. And homecoming really got good towards the end of the week. We really packed a lot in towards the end of homecoming week. On Thursday night, the night before the big homecoming game, we had the homecoming bonfire, which is exactly what it sounds like. Our high school lit a giant fire outside in between the football field and the county fairgrounds, which were at the end of the street. The bonfire was always super fun because they would bring out the homecoming court, and probably the football players would go up and like be announced, or maybe just the senior football players. And I think the dance team would perform. It was kind of like a showcase, if you will. And then the highlight of the bonfire was the boys' dance routine, which again is exactly what it sounds like. God forbid boys just dance outside of it being a homecoming entertainment activity, but we thought this was hilarious, okay? This is where a bunch of guys from each class, usually football players, would perform a dance routine to some song by Chingy or Nelly or, you know, Destiny's Child. And we would howl with laughter. We would be rolling on the floor with laughter like this was the funniest thing we had ever seen. And naturally, they would do the most like hyper-sexualized dance moves. It was a lot of body rolls and a lot of like slapping their butts and, I don't know, taking their shirts off and flossing their shirts between their legs. If you've seen that episode of One Tree Hill where Nathan and Skills decide to enter the amateur competition at the local strip club so that they can win money so that Nathan can buy Haley a prom dress, it was basically like that. Except none of the boys in my high school looked like Nathan Scott. Anyway, after the bonfire, we had what was called the sock hop. This kind of stuff always makes me feel especially old because references to 50s culture still made sense when I was in high school. Like now when I think of the 50s, it feels like an alternate reality. It was so long ago, it almost doesn't feel real because it was so long ago. Like there's modern times and then there's the olden days. And the olden days was the 1950s. But when I was in high school, we still had events called things like sock hops because the 1950s were not yet ancient history. Like most people could make sense of a reference to something from the 50s. However, I have no idea why it was actually called the sock hop because I don't think there was anything sock hoppy about it. Like, it didn't have a theme. It wasn't 50s themed or anything like that. It was basically just an excuse for everyone to pile into the school gym smelling like sweat and bonfire and grind on each other to Yeah by Usher. There was a lot of grinding at the sock hop, I remember. I don't remember much else from it, but I remember there was a lot of grinding going on at that sock hop. I need to know, like, what was the deal with grinding in those days? Why did we think that this was the thing to do at any sort of school dance? Do kids do this now? What do kids do now at school dances? do they grind on each other? Or do they like film TikToks of them doing dances that they've all learned? I don't know, but this is the thing. We could do embarrassing, cringy stuff like grind on our classmates in dark school gymnasiums because nothing was being recorded. There was no record of our behavior in those days other than just our memories, which clearly, judging by the way that I can't remember details, are not very good. Like maybe somebody had a disposable camera, but it was probably dark enough in the gym that every picture would probably come out really blurry and you wouldn't be able to see it anyway. We were safe from our every move being posted on the internet, and thank God for that, because I absolutely shudder at the thought of anything that I did in high school being documented on video, especially if it was posted publicly on the internet. Friday and Saturday, of course, were the shining moments of homecoming week. It was the homecoming parade, the game, and then of course the homecoming dance, which was the culmination and also the highlight of the week. And it was also where the king and queen were crowned. So Friday was game day, obviously. It was also spirit day, which just meant that we were all supposed to wear our best GET high school gear for the day. And our school had this tradition where the entire senior class would go outside and take this big group picture in front of the school's sign. And that picture would go in the yearbook on the front and back cover. So when you would open up the yearbook, that whole first kind of page that's usually just blank in a book, that's our big senior picture, and same thing on the back. And I really love this picture. I still have my yearbooks, and I love this picture because you can just so tell which kids were not about the high school life. Like, I'd say a good 80 to 90% of my class is wearing either a football jersey or that year's football t-shirt in this photo. You know, the t-shirt that the school would make every year with the football players' names on the back to raise money for the booster club or whatever. And then there is the little pocket of kids wearing just a plain black t-shirt or an all black outfit, just completely unamused, but still forced to be in the photo over in the corner. And I wasn't probably the type of kid that you would consider to be super into school spirit, but I had a lot of fun in high school. And really, I liked any excuse to dress up in a theme or put together an outfit. So I went all out for my homecoming theme day outfits, whether it was a fun theme or if it was just spirit day, I always participated. But I definitely had some friends, some good friends, who would not have been caught dead dressing up for a high school homecoming theme day. And I love that it's just so obviously documented in that photo. So seniors spent the morning taking pictures and, I don't know, probably just wandering the halls. Honestly, the entire homecoming week, especially as a senior, reminds me of the movie Dazed and Confused, kind of how they just spend the entire time that they are at school doing nothing except for wandering the hallways with their friends and talking to each other and generally just doing anything except learning, anything except actually attending class. That's how I remember homecoming week, especially Friday of homecoming week. In the afternoon on Friday, we had the homecoming parade. And I've talked about this before, you guys. The homecoming parade was hilarious. It was basically just a bunch of people with pickup trucks, with high school kids in lawn chairs in the back of the pickup trucks, driving through the town, just throwing out candy to the other students who weren't in the parade so that they were watching the parade. And I would imagine there were a few community members that maybe came out and watched this parade, but essentially we were probably just throwing candy at our classmates who were watching from the side of the road. I had the honor of riding in this parade twice. The first time was my senior year, so that was the fall 2004. I graduated in spring 2005, so my homecoming took place in the fall of 2004. And then again, the following year, fall 2005, after I had already graduated, which I will get to that story in a few minutes. Friday night after the big parade obviously was the homecoming football game, which I always went to but barely watched. As per usual, I was there to socialize, and that was really it. And I'm sure we went out after the game too, because we never missed an opportunity to throw a party. And, you know, we probably slept in someone's car in some cornfield somewhere and then woke up bright and early on Saturday morning ready to go, because Saturday was the homecoming dance and there was a lot to do to prepare for the homecoming dance. We all got our hair done professionally most years for homecoming. Like, we went to the hair salon for full updos with 78 bobby pins and half a can of hairspray for homecoming in our high school gym. After we got our hair done, we'd have to run home and slather our faces with CoverGirl cream to powder foundation that was several shades too light for our skin tone, a few layers of shimmery, silver eyeshadow with some Maybelline Great Lash mascara and maybe some blue eyeliner, some shimmer body lotion to really pull the look together. And then we would get dressed in our homecoming dresses. My school did short dresses almost exclusively for homecoming. For prom, we went much more formal. But for homecoming, it was generally a short dress, almost always purchased from the store Deb at the local mall. If you did not have the store Deb when you were in high school, I genuinely feel bad for you. And I also genuinely would love to know where you got homecoming dresses, because I feel like that is where we all bought our homecoming dresses. My favorite homecoming dress, which was from Deb, was my junior year homecoming dress, you guys. I wore a two-piece dress to homecoming my junior year. I really thought that I was doing something special with that dress, because not only was it two pieces, but it was long, the skirt anyway, which was very unusual for my school. You didn't see a lot of long dresses for homecoming. And I will say that the color was very pretty. It was this navy blue color that kind of had a shimmer to the fabric. It was kind of that heavy, almost crepey fabric, very like tail end of Y2K. And then the top was a beaded little crop top with two little straps. I basically wore Sheena Shea's wedding dress to homecoming in 2003. I wore it with giant clear plastic heels, also purchased from Deb, obviously. I can just feel the foot sweat pooling in those plastic shoes. But I really thought this was like the greatest dress of all time. And honestly, I have pictures of it. It is kind of cute. It's not that bad, at least. Senior year, I actually had this really cute pink halter dress from Express that was short, which I ended up wearing last minute because I had this other dress, which was a really pretty ombre dress that kind of went from a navy to an aqua blue. And it had these really delicate beaded straps. And one of the straps broke while we were taking pictures. The strap just snapped and the whole dress fell down in the middle of the park with a bunch of parents with their cameras out. Someone probably has a picture of my dress hanging down off my little strapless bra like 2 hours before the dance started. And I don't know why I had the pink dress that I ended up wearing, but I did, thank God. And I ran home at the last minute and changed, and that's what I wear. But looking back, I'm glad I wore that dress. It's actually very cute, and I actually still own it. So it does make appearances in some videos. It's cute. So after we met at someone's house to take pictures in front of the fireplace or the stairs, or maybe somewhere outside if the weather wasn't too bad, it wasn't too cold, then we would go to dinner, always as a group for a school dance. And the obvious choices were Olive Garden, Red Lobster, and Outback Steakhouse. Those were the fancy places to eat for teenagers nearest my hometown. So we'd roll into Red Lobster, 10 kids deep in our glittery dresses from Deb and our little dates, and order our little virgin daiquiris and our shrimp scampi. And I mean, when I tell you, we thought we were in Sex and the City with those little virgin daiquiris from Red Lobster and our little Deb dresses. And then after we had sufficiently stuffed our faces with cheese biscuits and virgin daiquiris, we would head to the dance finally. My senior year, I remember, I feel like we were all just kind of over it. Like, none of my friends and I really wanted to go to the homecoming dance, but I was on the homecoming court, so I had to go, and we all ended up going. And actually, I ended up being the homecoming queen, which is actually still wild to me, but I think it's because I really didn't have a clique in high school, and the way that my high school did it was the homecoming king and queen were voted by the entire school, not just your class. So I think your class voted on the court, decided the court, but then of those people that were on the court, the entire school, freshmen through seniors, voted on the king and queen. And I hung out with a lot of underclassmen, so I think that gave me an edge. But the entire experience was actually so mortifying. Like, I'm still horrified when I think about it, because they made us dance in front of everyone, me and the homecoming king, for an entire song by ourselves. No one else danced. It was just the two of us in the gym in the middle of the floor, with everybody sitting on the bleachers because people would come, like parents and stuff would come to watch the king and queen get crowned. So it wasn't just like our whole school, it was like parents, random people that didn't even go to our high school, like all of these people watching us in this dark gym with twinkle lights, dancing awkwardly, you know, like middle school dance style with our hands barely touching each other and kind of slowly rotating in a circle for an entire song. It was like a freaking first dance at a wedding, but a really, really awkward first dance at a wedding where they didn't practice and they barely knew each other. It was horrible. I feel awkward even talking about it now, and it has been 19 years. And the guy who was homecoming king, he is the nicest person I think I've ever met, but he was probably the only guy on the homecoming court who I wasn't really friends with. I mean, not for any reason, like we just never had become friends, I guess. So we didn't have anything to talk about because we didn't hang out ever. Like we didn't really know each other. It was a super tiny school, so we knew each other well enough. Like we weren't total strangers, but it wasn't like some of the other guys on the court who I was really good friends with and hung out with on the weekends. That would have been less awkward. But this was like a prime, just the most awkward thing ever. And of course they gave me a little beauty pageant tiara. We all had tiaras actually for being on the court that we had put into our little updos when we got our hair done at the salons. They were like built into the curls and kind of hairsprayed in place. But then they gave me a slightly larger plastic beauty pageant tiara for being queen. But then, this is so funny to me even now, I had to give it back. On Monday morning, I had to bring it back to school and take it to the office and give it back so they could reuse it, I guess, the next year. I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty sure they gave me an option to buy it, but I was like, you know, I'm good. I don't need that. So I got it at the dance and I wore it out to the after party that night, obviously. And then on Monday morning, I brought it back to the school and gave it back to them, like crusted in hairspray and probably some stale beer, and said, here you go. And I guess they used it the next year and probably forever until somebody decided that they wanted to buy it or it broke. I'm not really sure. Maybe they're still using the same plastic tiara that I wore in 2005. And speaking of the following year, my school had a tradition. I don't know if this is still happening, but when I was in high school, it was tradition that the previous year's homecoming king and queen would come back the following year and they would ride in the homecoming parade on Friday and then go to the dance on Saturday. So the outgoing queen, I guess, could crown the new homecoming queen. So I went back the following year after I had graduated, which was not difficult, by the way. I went to college 30 minutes away. My best friend all through high school was also a year younger than me. She was class of 2006. So she was still in high school. She was a senior when I was a freshman in college. I was back home all the time anyway, like hanging out with my friends and stuff. But I had to go ride in the parade again. At least I think I did. I don't actually have any real memories of riding in the parade, but I'm pretty sure I did because that was a thing that we were supposed to do. But I do remember going to the dance, fall 2005, to crown the new queen. And I actually remember this because I wore this really cute brown dress from Express, which I worked at. I worked at Express at the time. It was brown and it had this halter strap that was a gold chain. And then it had kind of this emerald green stone gem thingy kind of in the center of the chest. This was the era of the sky tops, so we liked an embellishment in the center of the chest. So I wore that gold and brown dress with gold shoes. 2005 to 2006 really was like the era of brown and gold. I think every single outfit that I wore during those times had some element of brown and gold on it, and I felt very chic. But anyway, I went to the dance and I put the crown that was probably the exact same crown that I wore the year before, that they probably didn't even clean the hairspray off of yet, onto the new queen. I still remember Taylor, homecoming queen, 2005. And at the time, this didn't seem weird to me at all. And I do realize that this is the point of homecoming, right? It's called homecoming because the alumni are supposed to come back and come home for homecoming. But now looking back, it seems so funny. Like I was fully graduated, I was in college, and I went to a high school dance. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if I went to an after party afterward, considering a lot of my friends were the class below me, so they were still in high school. I don't know. But what if I had moved away for college? Nobody really does that in my hometown, at least not right away. People sometimes move further away a little later, but usually people go to school in the general area. I'm guessing they're probably still doing this, but I would be curious to know how my little school's homecoming traditions have changed, if they have at all. But I would also really like to know what kind of theme days they do now for homecoming week, because we had some questionable ones considering it was the early 2000s. We had a lot of questionable things. Speaking of theme days, I was really curious to know what kind of theme days you guys had when you had homecoming week in high school. So I polled people on Instagram, and I'm going to share some of my favorite responses from you guys on homecoming theme days you had, as well as the theme days that I can remember from my own high school experience. Starting off with some real gems from you guys, it is apparent how many of you are from small towns just like mine, which is really comforting to me because I always think that I had such a weird experience, and responses like these remind me that I am not alone. Redneck Day, Camo Day, Tractor Day, and Farmer Day. There were a lot of variations of things like this. So again, I feel comforted knowing that I was not alone. Beach Day, a lot of people said, or Hawaiian Day. I don't think that we had this, but if we did, I would have gone all out. I probably would have worn a grass skirt to high school for something like this. Sport Day, Crazy Hair Day, Decades Day. These all seem pretty standard. Western Day or Cowboy Day, that's fun. I don't remember having that, but that would have been a fun one. And then there were things like Tie Day, Nerd Day, Dress Like a Teacher Day, which I think is really, really clever and fun. I don't think that we had that either, but that would have been really fun to do. I wish we would have had that. Ugly Sweater Day, Class Colors Day, which sounds like it was really common and each class had to wear a different color. I don't think we had that either. Disney Day, and then my favorite, because again, I am the product of a rural high school in the Midwest. This one really made me laugh. Carhartt Day. And I do have to note that this was before Carhartt was fashionable, before girls were wearing Carhartt beanies on the streets of Soho. Carhartt was strictly for farm wear in towns like my hometown. And last but not least, a few of the theme days that I can remember from my high school experience, although I'm sure that there were others that I'm just not remembering. These are the 5 that stand out the most in my mind, and also probably stand out because these are theme days that I have a lot of photos from when I was in high school. Number 1 is Pajama Day. This is a classic Spirit Day theme day, and I'm almost positive that this was typically on a Monday, which makes sense because coming off the weekend, then you could just roll into school in your PJs. And this is self-explanatory. This is when you wore your pajamas to school. Number 2 is Twin Day, and Twin Day was always the favorite, especially amongst the girls in my high school. This is where you would pick a friend and you would come up with some crazy, mismatched, nonsensical outfit that you would both wear. And it usually was something fairly scantily clad, we'll just say. There were a lot of fishnets, there were a lot of garters, there were a lot of hot pant booty short kind of things, mini skirts, a lot of wigs too. We loved to throw like a crazy wig on for Twin Day. I think there was one year that one of my, or 2 of my friends, because it was Twin Day, wore fishnet stockings with like booty shorts and garters around their thighs and just like a tank top, and that was their outfit. And the most infamous Twin Day outfit was my friend and I, my junior year I think it was, wore full head to toe Hooters uniforms to high school. Next is Cross-Dressing Day, which is probably not the best theme day in 2023, but in 2003, we thought this was a great idea. And it is exactly what it sounds like. You would find someone of the opposite gender and you would dress each other. And it really became kind of a competition of who could put the other person in the worst outfit, especially the girls dressing the guys. We loved nothing more than making our guy friends go into high school wearing a pink mini skirt and kitten heels and a feather boa. Other kids got really creative with it and would dress up in costumes of somebody famous or something recognizable of the opposite gender. I remember one year a group of girls, I think it was 3 girls dressed up as Nelly, and they had like the Band-Aid on their face and McJerseys, I don't know, stuff like that. So people got creative with it, but at its core, it was an opportunity to make your guy friends wear a skirt. We thought this was hilarious. It was 2003. Next is theme day / toga day. This was always on Thursday at my high school, and this is where the seniors would wear togas, which was just a bed sheet that they tied around themselves, hopefully over other clothing, but it was a bed sheet that they would have safety pinned around their bodies. And then the rest of the school would dress according to their class's theme. So whatever your sub theme within the larger theme was, you had to dress according to that theme. And again, like so many things for our high school's homecoming week, this day was really about the seniors. The theme day thing kind of got pushed to the wayside, and it was really about the seniors in their togas. When I think about toga day for homecoming, I remember there was this obsession with Animal House still in the 2000s. Again, this makes me feel really old, but we were all obsessed with Animal House, and I remember thinking that toga day was just practice for what college was going to be like. Like, certainly we were all going to attend a lot of toga parties. So we needed to learn how to wrap a bed sheet around our bodies and make it look like a toga for college. And then last but not least is Spirit Day. This was always on Friday. Obviously makes sense. That was game day. This seems pretty consistent across the board that Friday of homecoming week for all of us was Spirit Day. At my high school, it was customary for football players to wear their jerseys on game day and then give their other jersey that they weren't wearing to some lady to wear to high school. So if they were home, we would wear their travel jerseys and vice versa. So pretty much like half the high school on homecoming Spirit Day was wearing a football jersey. The dance team kind of made it their unofficial uniform at my high school during football season, that we would wear our little dance team skirts with a jersey. So that was my Spirit Day outfit. Previous years when I wasn't on the dance team, I have no idea what I wore. Probably just like a GET high school t-shirt and nice low-rise flare-leg jeans with some flip-flops. That was the look. I do have a lot of photos of a lot of these different outfits, which I have mentioned. So if you are interested in that, I have them in videos on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. I should make one specifically about homecoming outfits. So maybe I'll do that. Look out for that as a short form video somewhere. Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did enjoy it, as always, I would appreciate it if you share this episode with a friend who might also enjoy it. I will be back next week. I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about yet, but stay tuned. Until then, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And I'll see you next week. Bye.